In this series of conversations, we meet Liv Larsson, mediator, author, and longtime teacher of nonviolent communication. For over 2 decades, Liv has worked at the intersection of conflict, empathy, and transformation, helping people navigate some of life's most difficult conversations. But this is not just about technique. It's about what happens inside us when we choose to stay present. When we meet resistance with curiosity or anger with listening, together we explore how conflict can become a space for growth rather than avoidance, and what it really means to hold space for others without losing touch with ourselves. Liv shares stories from the field, reflections on power, and the inner practices that help her return to empathy, even when it's hard. Whether you're familiar with nonviolent communication or simply wondering how to engage more honestly and bravely in moments of tension, this series of episodes offers thoughtful and grounded invitations into a deeper kind of being. Let's begin.
Hi, Liv.
Hi.
I thought we'll continue our conversation from the last time when we talked about mediation, and you mentioned the shame as something that kind of influences quite a lot. So what is shame really? Like what is it, if we're going to talk about it?
I think that question is interesting because I can answer that from so many angles. So first of all, it's an emotion, like something we experience usually in a very physical way. We experience it in a awkward, discomfort way, a way where we try to usually run away from it.
Uh-huh.
So that's one way of describing it. Another way is just to describe it's as a moment of stress, a moment of real physical stressful impact. A third one would be to describe it as something that regulates norms, that kind of regulates our place in the group. It kind of reminds us of the moments when we behave in ways that might risk our place in the group.
So it's about inclusion, kind of.
Well, yeah,
in a social context.
If in the social context, it certainly is about inclusion. It's like the fear of not being included, which is very big in different stages of life, I'd say.
So what can we learn? Because you kind of claim that we can learn something. You're not suggesting we run away from shame. So what can we learn about ourselves, or when we stop and listen?
Well, when we come to a certain, I think it's a good way for small kids to try to run away from shame because it has such a big impact on our nervous system. But as adults, I think it's the other way around. That whenever we come to a place where we feel calm enough or ready for it, to actually pause when there's shame. And instead of always saying yes or always saying no, we start figuring out, is there another place I can answer from than the answer that would give less shame, give the least shame?
When you say kids, children, so how do I know if I'm a child or if I'm an adult? Like I'm guessing there's some resources that you're pointing at. So how would anyone listening to this being able to distinguish, are they in the category of being a child or an adult?
Yeah. So one way is if you can stay with discomfort. If you can stay with discomfort without being so stressed out afterwards that you, well, that is not good for you. But if you're ready to kind of hold your own nervous system, to be able to calm your nervous system down with, for example, thoughts like, okay, it feels like I'm going to die now because I feel so awkward. I feel such fear. But actually, this situation is not that dangerous. It just feels that way. When you can start thinking and navigating your thoughts from a, a place where you usually would automatically just try to get rid of it, then I would say you're becoming an adult.
All right.
And of
So
course, we
it's
don't
not
do that all the time. But
so it's not about age so much then.
no,
It's more about being aware and having, like you say, the sense of control of your body and
yeah.
your impulses.
And I use the word child so that people don't try to force what I'm talking about when I talk about shame on their kids, but that they are actually aware of that we need to have a certain maturity for us to be able to face shame.
Okay. So if I'm adult, like in age,
Mhm.
can I train? Can I practice this, or is it just like luck or DNA or ooh,
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both, but it's what I've seen through hundreds and of trainings where I have worked with shame. I I see that people that get curious about this moment when they either get angry or they get self critical or when they are ready to just give up. Those kind of moments when they actually realize I could do something else than the habitual way of dealing with it. Just first recognizing what we do to avoid it, there's like a choice in there. There's a sense of choice in there.
but if it sounds like it's about being curious.
That's one thing for sure. Yes.
So how do one get curious? Like, because it's easy now listening to this, like, oh yeah, I'm curious. But then when the nervous system is like, boom, it's all jacked up, and you feel this uncomfortable experience. How do you then stay curious? Like,
Yeah. I mean, in that moment, if it's the first time you are curious, it's probably going to be hard. But if you are curious in moments where it's safe enough and you have maybe compassionate support around you, it is very different from when you're just realizing in a moment that is actually a bit risky.
mhm,
For most people, I would say they start to realize that, for example, maybe you like to sing and you like to sing in front of people and you want to do more of that. But you have noticed that when someone asks, "Can you sing at this wedding?" or "Can you sing for me?" or you sing together with someone, or and you kind of you don't sing loud so that people hear you, but you want to do that, and you realize that, oh, I'm not saying yes to singing because I feel shame. And then that curiosity is like, how can I get rid of the shame, or how can I get on the other side of shame? It kind of ends up being in one of the in like in a scale where at one hand you have the dream of singing because you really enjoy that, and in the other hand it's like, I don't want to feel awkward. But if that curiosity of what do I need to do to be ordered to sing gets so big, then you will be curious about the other side. What's stopping me?
mhm,
And then you can work on that. You can train yourself. You can know what to do. So, for example, you sing and you have your best friend seated very close to you. So you know you have at least one supporter when you sing in front of 25 people, for example. Someone that will know that you feel this way and that will still include you, that will still accept you.
mhm. Some kind of safety net
Yeah,
while exploring it. Yeah.
exactly.
So you written two books on this topic:
Hmm.
Anger, Guilt, and Shame, Reclaiming Power and Choice,
Yeah.
and now Unmasking Shame, Compassion and Connection at Every Stage of Life.
Yeah.
And I also know that you're writing on your third book.
Yeah.
Uh, so why are you interested in this topic? Like, why do you write about this?
Well, first of all, you said something before. You talked about the curiosity, the importance of curiosity, and in order to be able to deal with the shame. I would also say there's another component. It's when you're kind of ready to let go a little bit of your identity, like this is how I am. So I'm not gonna, never gonna face myself. I'm just gonna let the idea of this is me decide how I'm gonna live my life. But then when you start creating a little bit of distance to yourself, you can use humor, for example, and make fun of yourself in a warm way. It's kind of the same with shame. When you start to read about it and you see that it's not only you that has it, that is one of my reasons. I hear people that has read my books, and they get something out of it. They get that little bit of distance. They are not the only ones that feels this way. So for me, that is a big payoff when I realize that people can take a deep breath and say, yeah, I'm usually saying no to singing because I feel so much embarrassment standing there. But this time I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to see if I can live through it in some way so that I can live my dream, so I can do what I dream of. So, and for me also, with your question, why, is that shame opens the door to so many things. And I want to see if I can support people in opening these doors.
But I mean, that happens after people read your book. But
Mhm.
but when you started writing, you
Mhm.
didn't have that feedback. So what made you kind of get into this
Mhm.
topic, like
Mhm.
in the before anyone else had read anything that you
Yeah.
about this?
Well, for me, it was very clear when I heard the founder of the man behind Nonviolent Communication, Marshall Rosenberg, when I heard him say, "Never do anything to avoid shame, anger, or guilt. Instead, pause and feel it." I thought he was joking. Like, of course, we want to get rid of these emotions. Anger, it was for me because I didn't even feel shame. And it was very clear when I studied it a bit that it was because I was so fast in avoiding it.
Uh-huh.
And I realized the moments when I could pause and I can turn around, I can look at it from another angle, I could look it into the eye, I can look face into its ugly eye. I could, there's something else that happened. I felt more free. I had a sense of power. I had a sense of choice that before was more like a reaction. It was like felt like a choice, but it was actually just me running away. So for
Uh-huh.
me, it meant a lot. So it was also the fun of sharing that.
Mm-hmm. So after taking Marshall's advice, you started feeling shame, or you became aware of that you felt it. Uh, how did you deal with that, like in the beginning? Because that's some years now. Like, how
Yeah.
was it in the beginning? The first baby steps of becoming aware of that uncomfortableness of shame.
Well, I read a lot and I listened to people a lot that had dealt with shame. And one of the things I created from all that listening was what I call the compass of needs. So for me, that is it's a four components, four directions we usually take when there's shame. And so my first step was trying to navigate that, or to map my own behaviors, and from that, becoming aware of how much I didn't want to be vulnerable in the way that I was when I felt shame. So it was almost like it was on such low volume before that I didn't hear it. But then, as I invited more vulnerability into my life, I realized, I have that part of me where I say no to things that I want to say yes to.
So you said something about directions. What do you mean by behaving in directions? Like, can you say more about that?
Yeah, so in the compass of needs, this simplified, it has four directions where to look for what we do to avoid shame. And one is uh, blaming others for the shame, blaming others for the discomfort, and then instead of feeling shame, I will be angry. The other direction would be I self-criticize, I blame myself, and then with that self-blame, I don't feel shame anymore because I know now whose fault it is, and there's no shame there. There might be guilt and kind of withdrawing, or like, I'm not so good thoughts, but the shame kind of goes away. So that's two directions. And the third and the fourth would be more the question, who has the power to change this? If the first question was who's to blame, the second question would be who has the power to change this awkward shame moment? And one would be to just totally withdraw, not even blame myself, just withdraw from anything that any moment where I would feel shame again. And the fourth one would be to kind of bravely do everything, but without actually feeling it much. Just saying, of course, I will. You tell me you can't jump, bungee jump, and of course I'll do that. Just to show you. Not because I want it necessarily, but because I hate when someone calls me a coward.
So that part is like, when people say you can't do that, then you have to do it, kind of.
Mm, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like rebelling to show you're not weak.
like like when parents try to get their kids, to do things, they notice that they can say, oh, you can't jump, you can't do that, and then
Hmm.
you're saying that is avoiding shame.
Yeah. It's avoiding someone, if you have an attachment like I had, to always be sustainable, self-sustainable, to always be brave, and the coolest thing is to be free and so on. Then if anyone tells you you cannot do that, you don't dare to do that, of course you need to prove that because you're so much wanting to have that identity of a strong, self-sufficient person.
Mm.
So because if I don't prove that, I will feel shame.
So it's kind of connected to how I see myself or how I want to be seen. My, like, is identity, you would say.
Yes, identity in through life in certain stages has a tendency to either make our shame stronger or not as strong.
So what is the best identity to have then? Not to feel this uncomfortable thing.
Well, the
Or
best
shame.
identity not to feel it, I don't know. Well, it's probably is to be just always hang on to being strong, but there will be moments when you're not. So then there will might be a big fall. The best identity might then be to know that you're just human, that you're just like others. You have some weaknesses, some flaws, some strengths, uh, and there will be shame, there will be other emotions, and it's not such a big deal.
Oh, so be human.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good advice.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah.
right.
It
So
seems
part of
like
be
sometimes one of the hardest thing to be, though. We try to be superhumans instead of being
yeah,
human.
yeah, yeah, yeah. One wants to be needing nothing or being able to handle oneself. But be, one part of being human is also being social, like
Mm.
living together with people, relationship, friendships, families. How does that, or does it influence how we experience shame, like living in cultures and societies? Is that part of this as well, or is it just individual?
Yeah. Uh, The more I look into shame, the more I really enjoy it. It's like a sense of help. It's like a trying to help us to live together in the best possible way. And the shame comes in when we forget that. And of course it has downsides. It has its weak parts. But so for example, I would say there's shame in most cultures, or maybe in all cultures. I don't know all cultures, but there's shame in most places I've been anyway, or in all places I've been. And the shame is there, but we feel shame of different things. Like when I was a teenager, there was a shame about certain things. When a person in Japan will feel shame about different things than a person in Sweden, but the shame will kind of be similar. The sense of trying to navigate that in connection to others, in being accepted and being included. So, but the shame will be there when we're overriding the norms. It will also be there when I'm overriding my own integrity. In different moments in life, these things become less and more and or less important, my own or the group's.
So it's not like static, it changes during the lifetime.
Yeah.
Does it have to change? Can it be like the same, or does
Well,
it
I would
have to
say,
change?
yeah,
Or
well, it seems like it does change because it does change because when I was small, of course, I was shame. The shame was that I wasn't able to do things that my bigger sisters could. I couldn't tie my own shoelaces or do things, and it was like it was shame. It was shameful not to be like a big girl, a good girl. And but then that changed. That wasn't that important. But then, of course, as teenager, the shame was more about: Am I accepted by my peers? Am I seen by the boys? Am I seen by my girlfriends? Can I can I be part? So, and then there's a moment when that is also not the case.
but it sounds like the shoelaces, like being the being the smaller sister. Like it sounds like a good thing to feel ashamed. So that makes you learn how to tie your shoelaces.
Yeah, that is the benefit of the shame. That yeah, it pushes us, and of course there are other things that will help us also go for being able to tie shoelaces. But there's something with that shame that it's kind of mine. It's there with me. I want to show that I can do this. That is, it's quite a force.
But are there any differences, like in how shame is experienced based on gender, like for men and women, or if we have different backgrounds, social, economical, or coming from like social roles, is or is it the same?
Yeah, and there's for first of all cultures. So there are cultures where shame is supposed to you're supposed to feel shame, and it's like you're supposed to show it or tell that you're ashamed. And there are
So,
cultures,
do you have an example of
well,
what would that
a
be?
lot of Eastern cultures use shame as part of mending relationships, like showing you feel shame so that you will be accepted by the group. And there are other cultures like American, Australian, European, largely, where things like being proud of your achievements, being telling I'm the best, where that is kind of totally allowed and good to show that you're that you're achieving something, and where shame is not something you're supposed to kind of show that you feel. I'm
Mhm.
exaggerating, of course, because on individual level, it's has all kinds of variation. That's the problem with talking about cultures. But culture-wise, there are differences. How much shame is is supposed to be there?
So which one is better then? To kind of navigate in a social context where there's openness of shame, and then when you're not supposed to, like, what's the good and bad?
Yeah, so I would say they're in different phases, in different developmental phases for humans. The different cultures will be differently challenging. Like coming from north of Sweden, uh, I I always have a sense of when I achieve something that I should lay low. I should not show how proud I am of something. And of course, that has helped me to kind of make sure I'm always accepted, I'm always part. But sometimes it also stops me from celebrating. So, so that has a price. So I've learned through, for example, nonviolent communication, how to celebrate without having to make myself small. But I can instead celebrate connected to needs.
Hmm.
Needs being met. So it's uh, different cultures have different challenges, I'd say, when it comes to shame. And different, like you said before, gender-wise, it will be different. Different groups, in groups, like smaller groups, there will be different challenges because of on norms, values, uh, what counts in that group.
In your first book, Anger, Guilt, and Shame, the subtitle is Reclaiming Power and Choice. What do you mean by reclaiming power? Like,
Yeah, so to me, it's really powerful to be scared of singing, as this is the example I took before. It's to reclaim power is to say, I want to say yes to when someone asks me to sing in front of them. And it's super powerful to be able to do that and to not having to be half dead to do it, but to actually feel all of it, to experience all of it. To me, that's powerful. To do something, even if you're scared of it, or to do something, even if you're, uh, if you need a lot of support from others in able to be able to do it, but not to make yourself cold or cool, but to make yourself alive and still go for it. For me, that's powerful.
so is that what you mean? That there's a difference between doing something out of, you know, bracing yourself and, you know, holding your breath kind of, or say more, or what is the other
Well,
flavor?
if you just say yes when someone asks you to sing at this event, and you say yes to it, and you go to that stage and you brace yourself, you make yourself like you maybe you even take a few drinks before, or you do something to not feel so much, and then you
Couple of
go.
gin tonics, yeah.
Yes. Or something that will certainly make you not feel so much. Of course you will miss half of the joy of being there. You won't have as an intense experience, uh, and to me, that's not very powerful. The powerful is to be there. Maybe your legs are shaking, maybe your voice is shaking, but you're doing it, you're feeling it, and you're making sure you have support, so you know you learn from it. You don't do it just once and then it was so hard you will never do it again. But you actually make sure you deal with it. You deal with what it brings up, and you learn from it so you can say yes the next time also, not just once.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. So it's like not lowering the volume.
Yeah.
But what if people are, you know, can't take it? Like can't take the real volume, so they have to take the two drinks.
Yeah. Of course, that can be dealt with different ways, and to me, that is one of the hopes of working with this, that we can actually and learn and share with our kids or younger ones to hold shame in a different way. Not saying I should not feel it, I should be brave, but just say, it's normal. It's normal when your legs are shaking when you're standing in front of people. Uh, this won't kill you. It feels like it will, but it won't kill you. To have thoughts like that, so that it's bracing yourself a bit, but not so much that you totally numb yourself. When you mature, you also want to make sure you stay even even more sensitive. And to me, I use the words, uh, I use need words, like needs that I connect to, in order to really stay connected.
But if I sing for the first time on stage, I guess that would be more overwhelming than if I have done it like 10 times or 50 times. So are you also saying that if we dream about singing, it will get easier because we get used to handling all these?
Yeah, you notice you survived. But also then suddenly there's someone shows up that you're really scared of singing in front of. And even if it is the 11th time, it might be scary again or shameful again because it's so important for you to sing in a good way in front of this person. So that's where the limitation is of bracing yourself. But when you can recognize, oh, it's just that I need acceptance. Of course I do. Or I need inclusion. I want to be invited to maybe more weddings where I sing or whatever. And I see this person could be the door for that. Then to stay more present is a different thing than just doing it again and again and becoming numb to the habit.
So is this why there's a warning on the back of one of your books? It says, warning, this book will change your life.
Yeah.
That it sounds like if you dream about singing or anything, this might be something that will help you live your dreams.
Yes, there is something with that I trust so much because I've been doing this now since 2010. I think that Anger, Guilt, Shame book came out. Uh, and or 11. And I've held so many trainings, I've coached so many individuals on this very theme, and I've seen so many changes. And it can start from anything from, a person that would never go back to the store when they come home and they see that the stuff they just bought is broken and they would feel too much shame to go back and complain about it, that they actually start doing that. Or really big life choices, like big major changes. But there's something that happens when we pause and notice how much we have let shame decide over our life, how much we've shrunken ourselves because of shame. And there's something that happens when people start doing something different there. And that will change your life in a better way.
Hmm. So if you don't want a better life, don't explore shame. That's
Yes,
like good advice. Yeah.
keep running away from it.
Yeah. Cool. So I have a lot of more questions, but I think we'll pause for now and maybe talk another time.
Hmm.
I'll put some links for the books and in the um, information on the this episode.
Hmm. I'm glad you say
Um,
so because there's so much we haven't spoken about, but I really, really I enjoy to think together with you about those questions.
yeah. So one last thing connected to conflict
Mm.
and mediation, because that's where we started.
Yeah.
So could you say something about how is shame connected to resolving conflicts? Like
Hmm.
we all know about conflicts, but I guess we're all also interested in how to resolve them. So how is shame part of that resolving?
Hmm. Well, to me, conflict very, very often, if we look at it closely, we will see that there are layers of shame there. either in one party that feels ashamed over having done something that hurt someone else, or in both parties. And might be even shame of having a conflict. We should all be peaceful, or we should all be agreeable. And then we have a conflict. So when we are in a conflict that we try to solve, for example, if one party goes like, "Oh, it's all my fault. It's just my fault. You can blame me for it." It doesn't usually help solving the conflict if someone takes on all the blame. It also doesn't help if someone gets really angry and just blames someone else and hope that that will do it. Because usually we also need to have a, solution phase, or we need to also deal with what are we going to do next. It's not just about how angry I am about how that it happened. So whenever we notice that there's shame, instead of having the anger, the self-blame, or the just giving up, the powerlessness, there's more of that willingness to pause and look at things, even if they bring up shame again. I stole $50 from you and I feel ashamed of it and I don't want to talk about it ever again. So now when we talk about the conflict, we're going to talk about, everything from stealing to lying to all of that. And that is awkward. But when we can be with that shame, we can be much more precise in how we can talk.
So you're saying that if we're not aware of that we're feeling shame, we might avoid that. And that creates problems, or we get further away from solving it.
Yeah.
And if we are the third party, like the mediator, then if I'm blind to the shame, if I can't see the shame, then I will miss opportunities to be helpful.
Yeah, and I might be bluntly like just saying this is what the conflict is about, and I have heightened the stress in these people's nervous system so much that they will, it won't work out.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So it has a lot to do with conflict, I'd say, shame, and when we can deal with that, there's certainly a super tool to deal with it.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, let's continue. We won't finish this today. So let's not say goodbye. Let's say see you next time. Yeah.
Yeah. See you next time.
Thank you for joining us in this conversation with Liv Larsson. If you want to learn more about Liv's work, upcoming trainings, or dive deeper into nonviolent communication, you'll find her at www.friaraliv.com. You'll find links to Liv's books mentioned in this episode in the show notes, along with more information about our international mediation program and the Reimagine Communication program, perfect if you're looking to deepen your practice in mediation and integrate nonviolent communication more fully into your life. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay curious, stay connected,